Imperial Magistrate reached a verdict. I have guilty or innocent. Spare me this mockery of justice.
And so one of my colleagues covers the numbers pretty thoroughly, and we were clocking in at 60 to 70 cases per day here, specifically in Toronto. And since masks have been instituted, those numbers dropped down to 20.
That's awesome.
Now, what we'll find out is like, again, they're going to open up the bars. They're going to have all that bullshit. That'll be the test.
Yeah.
Did you want to hear an interesting statistic I read?
Sure.
Apparently, between March and June in Canada, or specifically, I think it was BC, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec, those four major provinces, there was 4,500 more deaths than recorded year over year for the past 5 years. And they're saying basically if they're not attributed to COVID, then what the fuck are they?
Yeah.
So that would lead me to that's leading them into basically that they're not fucking testing, people are fucking dying, and they have all shit numbers.
So you're thinking the numbers are a lot higher?
Well, that's what they implied.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to ask a stereotypical question. Who's they?
Oh, that article? I'm not sure. It was on Apple News.
Right.
I'll dig it up for you.
Yeah, please. Sorry, Chris, you were going to say something.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Well,
I just thought it was interesting.
If it's true, I mean, okay, so let's assume for the moment the deaths are up. I mean, one thing that people, and I think we've talked about this, is like emergency room doctors. Like I have anecdotal evidence and also sort of reported evidence. The moment COVID hit, all of a sudden people stopped going to emergency for heart attacks.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's true.
All that
that's
shit.
Interesting.
Yeah, like
there is that ripple effect.
Dead.
Oh, you should. We were actually there. We were really concerned. We went in and it was dead. There was nobody wants to go to the hospital if their life.
Well, that's a fact. I have heard that too. Yeah, that people just are just not going when they should be going in some cases. So but, I mean, it's probably a mix of both.
Yeah, you could get a spike, in deaths for sure from completely unrelated causes, right? From just fear of going anywhere where there's doctors and stuff right now, right?
Plus, you made elective surgeries that like maybe should have been done. Like I don't know how much that impacted.
Oh, apparently there was backlash from that because they had somebody went at the health minister on one of the conferences. This would have been probably about a month ago.
Yeah.
During one of the Doug Ford like conferences or whatever, the health minister was up there talking, and one of the reporters had to go at them with like a nasty question about them postponing like heart surgeries and shit like that. And there was a considerable amount of they called it like it's basically, what do you call that in war? Like
collateral damage?
Yeah, she literally said that.
Wow.
And I was like, ugh.
Not a good look.
Yeah.
It really is. Like everybody talks about the numbers of COVID, but that's not what this is about. I mean, like if we take into account,
there's a lot of side things, right? Yeah, you're right.
A lot of, like, if we talked about the death that has truly resulted from this, I think it pales. I think probably the news report that you're talking about, if viewed in that context, yeah, those are COVID deaths, but they're not COVID deaths, if you take my meaning.
Yeah, like in relation to COVID, they could be like additional collateral damage deaths, right? Like,
yeah,
that's like,
it's an impact to the system overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting too.
So I mean, that's what pops to mind. Like, what the fuck do I know?
Yeah. You're probably getting more hits on going in the conspiracy route right now.
Yeah, well, it is probably a mix in between. I'm sure they don't have a tally of every death. Like, and some people just won't go to the hospital in general, like on a, some people are like that. So it's really hard to say. But
The numbers are. Oh, go on. You were going to say something.
I was just going to say I wouldn't be surprised if the numbers are higher than they think.
Yeah, or I wouldn't even. I feel. Yeah, I guess that's where I land. Like the numbers are probably slightly higher. I don't know where my threshold is for that though. 10% higher.
Yeah.
5% higher. But the
definitely that would be much more than 5-10%, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the numbers are weird. Like, I mean, one of the things that, you brought up the conspiracy kids, one of the things that the conspiracy kids will point to is that it's tough. Like, we don't tally death this way. It's so unusual for us to be like determining cause of death immediately and creating this massive database of immediate, live action death, essentially. And they're making mistakes from time to time. And every conspiracy theorist is jumping on those mistakes.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but
like the mask conspiracy people that you so adore.
Yeah. Fuck. On the system, like the lead guy here in Canada, Vladimir.
Yeah.
Yeah, he posted some bullshit yesterday about
man,
being part of totalitarian plots and shit.
Oh no.
I really like the he posted this like gorgeous I guess would you call that a caricature drawing?
Sure, I know what
like a puppeteer, like with the puppet strings coming down from the big hand of the government, the system, like and the strings were coming down, like pulling this like distorted mask against this little peon. It was a really nice drawing.
To what end, I wonder?
It's a beautiful illustration.
What's the end game of getting people to wear masks? That's so sinister.
It's about control, man. Okay, so here's the
It's about control.
Here's the argument of this thing. As much as I could stomach reading it, within 5 months, everyone's obeying the government, and within 5 months, all the mom and pop shops have closed. That's a major point of the argument. And within 5 months, all this legislation is passed. I don't know. It really focuses on like, oh yeah, and within 5 months, everyone's going to be clamoring for a vaccine. So it's all about, and within that amount of time, you're like, eventually, it's like, don't be surprised if you're going to need to show a card that shows you've been vaccinated, so you can work, and all that stuff. And yeah, well, that's probably the truth. On the one hand, I get where you're coming from. I'm picking up what you're laying down, guys, but like no one designed this. This isn't part of a plot by corporations to get control of the population.
Yeah, there's like also like I work in like basically like a rural area on the Niagara Peninsula that's basically entirely mom and pop businesses powered by this little tiny local community. It's minuscule, and none of the fucking mom and pop shops closed.
No,
the
we've seen
government even gave people enough free money, small businesses, to specifically sort of bail out a couple of months of payroll.
Yeah,
they reopened in phase 2, and it had no fucking issues, and everything's humming right now. So it's like that's fucking stupid. I don't know where you'd compile this data, but
it's American. It's an American conspiracy theory that people in Canada, like, that's the weird thing. Like, so much, I want to talk about it in terms of infection, because it seems, it's viral memes and shit like that. So many Canadians view themselves practically as Americans.
And they latch on to the same sort of like, I like the some of the ideologies and stuff like that. But the other thing too, I think I was like gagging about was that like one of the big things that was sort of like skimming around pre-COVID was that the Chinese were working on this like militaristic police state style facial recognition tech.
Oh, right.
Using like Huawei and all these cameras all over.
That's true.
The US and Google and Microsoft were compiling kind of sort of similar setups. And it was just it's going to become something, more and more prevalent as time goes on. But like legitimately little fabric face masks ruin that from top to bottom.
That's an excellent point. Yeah,
So,
they're like they have
you're like
bigger
if-
control schemes that are in the works, and yeah.
Yeah, so if you really wanted to like pinch down on a big corporate control scheme that's actually a real thing, then this basically kicks it right in the nuts. So I mean, that would lead you to really believe that no corporate entity had anything to do with this.
I'm throwing that in everybody's face. He tells me that's an excellent point.
It's just like sort of an observation, right? Like I don't know. Like,
though. Like if you're gonna come across someone, you're gonna say that to them, and it is clever. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a really excellent point. But their counter argument, because I thought about this earlier today, I was like, what would I say? I'm just a fucking idiot. What about the phones? Like, because everyone's going to have these apps, right? And the apps will alert if you're too close to someone or whatever. They'll just pivot to that talking.
Man, because Bill Gates is going to microchip you, so you won't even need to worry about the phones. It's going to be right in that vaccine.
Don't worry. That's.
Does no one on the planet that comes up with this shit realize that in order to microchip somebody inside of a hyperbolic needle, you would need like nanotechnology that doesn't exist?
Hypodermic needle, and yes.
Oh, sorry, my bad. What did I say? Hyperbolic?
Yeah,
that's wrong.
That's okay.
Anyway, yeah, thanks for the needle correction. I'm just saying there's no such thing as that, unless like what are we talking about here? What, like the fucking.
It's also everybody. Scholars have pointed out that many individuals who accept the extreme versions of unwarranted conspiracy theorizing. They live their life as if they exist in a science fiction thriller in which
that's true.
They're the persecuted hero who has the secret knowledge that is going to provide freedom and reveal that there is an enemy out there. And so it's all part of a narrative conceit, just as much as it's about politics and just as much as it's about belief.
And there's this idea too that they that those technologies do exist. We just don't know about them because the people in charge are keeping them secret.
Yeah, that's a real slippery slope right there.
Yeah,
if you're gonna say like, nanotechnology's been around. Nanotechnology's been around since 1986. You're gonna go down that fucking road. I'll tell you exactly where it leads. Illuminati, fucking Antarctic Nazis, lizard people.
Definitely.
Every
moon
time.
Nazis. My mother-in-law believes in moon Nazis actually, and she keeps saying, she'll say, you guys are gonna, I'm not gonna say it, but you guys are gonna see. You'll see when it happens. And it's like, okay, we'll see, and we'll have that conversation then.
What, the lizard people?
Oh, moon Nazis, and the microchipping and all that stuff. She's into it all.
My goodness. Yeah, and so that's and what was most interesting. So we were talking about this Vladimir guy. He's in his 60s. He's a boomer. A large number. I don't have a number on this, but like a large number of these QAnon fucks are just bored old people. They're just isolated, bored old people who found YouTube. And then picked on they just like, and I said this to James earlier today, it's hipsters on 4chan trolling far right boomers, and them, they don't understand that it's not real. Like they've fallen into that because of, well, for a lot of reasons. I wouldn't want to enumerate all of them, but they they fall into it.
Internet trolling is really fun unless it goes down this path.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. Like, I mean, like you say, like there's some wanker graphic designer out there that fucking adds a sideways lens on somebody's blink with a little computer program, and away you go, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And I watched. I saw his lizard. I saw his lizard blink. I wonder if they have those on YouTube, lizard blink videos.
I bet they do. I'm looking now.
There's a great one about Prince Charles where like he licks his lips at a press conference, and admittedly it's all in slow motion, and dude looks like a fucking lizard when he does it. Like I won't deny that, but that's not the smoking gun, guys. He just did a weird lick of his lips during a press conference.
Oh,
And
that's
what we're
naive of you.
yeah. That's the level of quote unquote evidence that we're dealing with these people. Like it's there's something that, in the 9/11 conspiracy theorists, for instance, will point to like, well, where's the wreckage at the Pentagon? I don't see any pictures of wreckage at the Pentagon. And that's fine. There's plenty of evidence that there was wreckage at the Pentagon, but like it's not the classic photos that you see all the time don't include it.
Yeah, did you think that they were going to allow you to photograph the Pentagon?
Oh, I don't think it comes down to that. I just like
it does come down to that also, though.
No,
you're not going to be like, oh, come on in, have a camera crew down. Let's just see you can see the inside of the Pentagon and see us cleaning it up. Fuck off. It's not going to happen. You're going to have a fucking perimeter.
Bodies and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, the molten, like the engine core was in there. There was an airplane. It fucking disintegrated because it hit a building that was designed to withstand a nuclear blast. Well, I don't know if it's as strong as that, but I mean, like that building was, and it happened to hit like the reinforced wing, or the recently renovated wing or some shit like that. But of course, that's what the government would say.
It is. So
yeah.
that's what a sheeple would say.
Yeah. Fucking Christ.
Oh, don't start that. Don't even.
You can never. You really can never win it. I mean, you can only hope to convince people who aren't that person who holds those beliefs.
Yeah, because if you're like, if one of the arguments, and again, getting back to the Vladimir thing, like, someone posted some facts, so they were just like, so actually, someone posted a meme that was clearly that had been going around about COVID, the New England Journal of Medicine. There's a meme about that, cooked up on 4chan yet again. And if I remember correctly, and then someone posted, the fact check on it, which is to show that it was bullshit. And then their response is like, "Don't you know that those fact checkers are part of the system?"
Oh shit!
Yeah. So checkmate.
Full circle. Full circle.
Yeah, you've entered into a totalizing epistemological, cul-de-sac, and I can't help you. And I'm
yeah.
And you there's and they skirt reality too with the, like, we had where I work, we had somebody in that was discussing the what do you call it? The masks and isolation was suppressing our immune systems.
Oh boy!
I've heard that one.
And that we were we're all gonna like pay for it and end up going like reverting back to like childhood with weakened baby immune systems, and we'll need corporate medicine to correct it, and so on and so forth. And I was like, wow, this is I don't know, but it's an interesting take. And I mean, like, when you're in like an isolated kind of state, you don't catch as many like common viruses, right? So it's like it's grounded in this sort of like half truth where you feel like, oh, that could make sense, but in reality that's not true. That's not how immune systems work. Like,
and meanwhile,
how they're built. Like, it's not like I get exposed to bacteria from the floor, like fuck. Like
and in a lot of Asian countries, like, masks are common practice too. So I mean, we have evidence, and you can observe this, that people aren't dying at increased rates in elsewhere in the world.
It's like it's effective in preventing viral transmission in like overcrowded populations. It's so then you use it in an outbreak, makes sense. Duh. Like
it's just a lot of people. Oh, okay. So actually, getting back to the sheeple comment. No, this is fascinating. Okay, so 1947, Leo Lowenthal publishes the Prophets of Deceit, and it's an analysis, a textual analysis of what they referred at the time as agitators, but basically what we would call like Alex Jones nowadays, like aggressive, religious, militant conspiracy theorists, and amongst the rhetoric even then was calling people sheep, analyzing documents from 1920, It's such an old and as a matter of fact, so much of what any of these individuals say, change the names, change the dates, change the, it's the Trilateral Commission, whatever. Just get rid of like the name of the entity. It hasn't changed since 1920. It's the same everything since the French Revolution. And it's just like this ancient web that continues to suck people in. Ideologically, it's just like it's a viable counter enlightenment that's always been there.
That's frightening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but on the other end, maybe it's comforting because, like,
Yeah, I was gonna say
it's just the background hum. It's just these fucking.
it feels urgent, but I guess like this element has always been there. They just have a wider reach now, I guess, but people can still ignore them. I remember hearing a stat that was like, so I've been doing a lot of listening to podcasts for work and stuff like that, and running a club. And one of the things we listened to, they were talking, it was just like somebody who studied conspiracy, and they said something like 8 to 10% of the population will always believe it, and you can't possibly hope to convince them. They have to get themselves out of it, and it's just a series of shocks, right? They have to be disproved over and over to the point where they can finally let it go. But
right.
You can, what your intervention, sort of like I was saying earlier, but you can intervene in providing facts to convince the people who are on the bubble, and in that state where, like James was saying, it sounds kind of plausible, kind of not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just like it's the equivalent of putting a mask on people, I guess.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
nice filtration system.
I'm pretty sure that's why we're never gonna ever really like get to those like futuristic utopias that people write about in science fiction. If we can still in 2020 fall for psychological double talk that was used in the 20s, it's just,
or earlier. Yeah.
Makes me sad.
If you're mixed by something that Voltaire would have overheard at a coffee shop,
You can fucking kiss flying cars goodbye, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
John Adams, I just was hearing about this. John Adams, like the second president, I think, of the States. He used conspiracy theory to convince people that the British were a bigger threat than they were. Like he started rumors that that the British were coming to enslave everybody, so like people needed to fight back, and that really got amplified to the point where it increased conflicts, like where the British were just kind of like coming to solve minor disputes. People got their backs up, and everything just escalated.
Oh, you fucking Brits! Yeah, America. Like, it's no surprise that a lot of this shit comes out of America. Like not just the American Revolution or French Revolution, but the American Revolution was also powered by conspiratorial thought. It's a mode of rhetoric. It's a mode of argumentation that allows you to convince people, like large numbers of people, to perform actions. Which is why you see it in fascist states and in moments of revolution. It's dangerous. It's dynamite, but it's also always there, and sometimes.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.